work study session of Independent School District 624. I would ask the clerk to please read the roll.
Chapman.
Here.
Ellison here. Mullen.
Here.
Newmaster.
Here.
Thompson. Here. Arcan.
Here.
Malloy.
Here.
All right, thank you all very much. Our first item on the agenda is our discussion item, is the Minnesota Association of School Administrators, MASSA, presentation of the Superintendent of the Year. I know Ms. Hinton is here to present that to our superintendent, so if you want to come forward and we can start that process.
Thank you. Are you seated?
Yes, ma'am. Can you do me a favor and just tell us your name for the record?
Sure. I'm Deb Henton, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of School Administrators. Mr. Chair, members of the board, it gives me great pleasure tonight to be here. Thank you for accommodating me on the schedule. Typically, we come, the Executive Director recognizes the Superintendent of the Year in a big gala. But unfortunately for Dr. Kazmierczak, we didn't have a big gala last year because of the pandemic. So he was the Superintendent of the Year in 2020 and didn't get to experience a lot of what other Superintendents of the Year experienced. Dr. Kazmierczak exemplifies what it means to be a good superintendent. His colleagues consider him to be a quiet leader who is knowledgeable, competent, and focused on doing the right thing for kids. He's a great advocate for White Bear Lake Area Public Schools. You need to know that he is always speaking so positively about the school district, the staff, the community, and of course, the kids. I have, I don't know what to refer to this as, but something for you to display, in honor of your award. So congratulations to you.
Okay, thanks, Deb.
Yeah, you're welcome. I want to also share that the award recipient goes through a competitive process. We always have many candidates who are nominated either by their staff, by community members, by students. And I do not pick the individual. In fact, I don't even have a vote. Nobody in MESA has a vote. We instead ask the executive directors of the School Boards Association, Education Minnesota, the Business Officials Association, MREA, the Minnesota Rural Educators Association, to all look at those applications and determine who they think would best exemplify the superintendents in the state. So it's a joint effort among many education organizations. And again, we're so pleased that you were selected last year through a really competitive process. Thank you for, again, allowing me to be here. And I wish we could have a big gala for Wayne, but not to be true this year, right? But I hope you have some time to celebrate him and honor the good work that he does, because we need him in this position. We need all of our superintendents to be strong and courageous. It's a really difficult job. We need you as school board members to be strong and courageous. We know these are really difficult times. So thanks to you for being on the school board and for supporting your superintendent. It is absolutely essential that that happens. And with that, I will take my leave and say it was good to see all of you, and especially Chairman Mullen, because he helped North Branch pass a 3-question bond election when I was superintendent in 2017, and I will forever be indebted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Henson. With that, we have 3 operational items this evening. We'll start with the first one, which is the action on the school board committee and liaison assignments. Dr. Kazmierczak, I know that we've been discussing that. We've gone over. I know that the way that it works is, just for everybody watching, is that every 2 years we try to switch assignments. Obviously, with the pandemic, we've run into a couple little snags about doing our due diligence around switching. So we've come up with somewhat of a good list. I've tried to reach out to everybody to put the list. I know the list was published. So with that, I would ask for a motion to approve the list so that we can approve the process moving forward. So moved. There's been a motion by Mr. Chapman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Newmaster. Is there any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor of accepting the list, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. The motion passes, and we've got new assignments for liaisons. Next is operational item 2, is action on the resolution of the health and safety measures for the 2021-2022 school year. Dr. Key, I believe that this is you.
Yeah, I'll kick it off, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Wald and Ms. Soren to come up, and we may have some others too if you have any questions regarding our plan. But essentially, this resolution resembles what we passed last year when we entered the school year with our learning model plan. This one is somewhat different, and the meat of the resolution is probably down now, therefore be it resolved under section 1. And I'll read that just so we're all focused on that part. So the superintendent is hereby directed to implement the following health and safety measures to open the 2021-2022 school year. All persons age 2+ are required to wear a face covering when they are in any building that is owned, leased, or operated by or on behalf of the district, and serve students from ages 2+ regardless of vaccination status in accordance with the district's mitigation plan, unless an exemption or exception stated in district policy applies. And you all have a hard copy of the mitigation plan. I know you've seen it before, but it's here in case you want to reference that as we discuss this tonight. So this is before you. This is the recommended course of action, and we're asking that you adopt this resolution as we enter the school year. And I'm going to set this here. So picks up other voices. So anyway, that's the recommended action, is that we move ahead with this resolution.
So I understand that the pandemic has been, we've been dealing with the pandemic for 18 months. I think before we ask for any action on the resolution, I want to open it up to questions to make sure that if anybody has questions, comments, concerns on the board, that they can do so. And then we will move through discussing the resolution. So let's start with that and open it up with any questions or comments. Ms. Ellison.
So Dr. Kevin, last year you sent us kind of regular updates on what the situation was, which was really helpful as things changed so rapidly. What are you getting from MDH and MDE? Are you getting any? Are they doing anything to send you information that you can share with us?
So the data point is the CDC dashboard, and so that's available.
Okay.
Yeah, and you've seen it, and so that's really what this what the mitigation plan is based on, is really those levels.
Okay.
And as of this afternoon, so it would have been data through the 21st, so that would be Saturday. Washington County, I believe, is at 155. Ramsey County was, I believe, at 127. So those are well above that high transmission. And so in terms of a date, it's not a singular data point that we would use, but it's a pretty important data point that we're going to use. And then in terms of updates from the Department of Health and Department of Ed, yeah, there's updates.
But it's not
there's nothing substantive that I could give you right now that they've sent out in the last week or so, but certainly anything relevant will be shared, certainly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I check this stuff regularly on my own, but I know that last year it was really helpful when there were big changes.
Yeah,
So.
and it wasn't long ago when we were quite a bit under those thresholds, so it's really changed dramatically in a month.
Great, thank you.
Floyd?
So how will this be? So if we're in a stage right now where we're at high, hopefully we end up going back down to the low or moderate, obviously low, but how will that transition then be sent to our families? Is it just going to be an email coming from?
Yeah,
Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and knows
email,
what-
phone call, text, there are typical ways. I don't know if the rest has anything to add on the method, but when we communicated a change in the learning model, for example, we typically did that later in a week once we had the latest data and made a decision and announcement. So I imagine we follow a similar process.
And the data is a week behind, correct?
Pardon?
The data is a week behind for the CDC?
Yeah, so this data is a little fresher than the data we were dealing with before. This is, so the data available now, at least as when I checked it today, was through the 21st. So.
That's a lot better than the 2-week lag I've had
Yeah.
before.
So hopefully we could be more nimble, just because the timing of the data will be better.
Other questions, Ms. Thompson?
So in other states where they haven't imposed mask mandates, the quarantining of students is the same as it was last year from what I've been reading, to where due to not everybody being masked, then they have to quarantine the whole classroom oftentimes, the teacher and everybody gets quarantined. And then some of the recommendations say that if everybody is masked in the classroom, everybody has to wear the mask, then there isn't need to quarantine everyone, and just the student who tested, or the individual who tested positive. So technically, we would be able to keep all of our kids in school.
That's a real, one of the real positives in requiring masks is that we will be able to keep kids in school. Absolutely. And I should mention too, so, you all know Tim and Lisa, and and there's some others here in the room as well. They're a part of the COVID incident command team, and we meet regularly and discuss issues like this. So I would just ask you guys to just hop in if you prefer, or somebody else should come up and answer questions. We'd be happy to do that as well. We have our nurses here.
Other questions, comments? Dr. Arcand?
I just have a question. As the Minnesota High School League formats their policy around indoor and outdoor athletics, does this supersede that, or do we follow their policies when it comes to playing with a mask or not?
Yeah, we've had some discussions about that. We would, they're making recommendations that we would generally follow. There is some nuance there. But generally, when student athletes are inside, we'd be asking them to mask. Now, we are having some discussions about, during physical exertion, is that a situation where it could be different? So we are having some of those discussions still. I don't know if you have anything to add on those.
Yeah, fortunately, most of our fall activities are outside, at least in sports. They're, it's outside, so we're fortunate that way.
And we're paying attention to what other conference schools are doing. We're trying to be safe but pragmatic at the same time.
Other questions, comments? I have a couple actually questions. So we as a board have been receiving several emails, and that several would be an understatement, right? About emails for and against, right? And asking us to think about the mask piece. And, one of the things that kind of resonates with me is they've been asking is, well, what happens with my child because there's a special circumstance or there's something that's maybe affecting my child's ability to do this or this? Have we communicated it out to make sure that parents, as they're looking at those situations or those circumstances, but that is there a direct connect with somebody that is handling those I understand they're a case-by-case basis, and I respect all that, right? I'm not trying to get sideways on it, but have we communicated out with parents saying, hey, if you have some concerns or that you need some additional information, here's the right place to go, here's the best way to alleviate this or to get this information? Have we done that? Have we communicated that out with parents?
Yeah, and I think Lisa, maybe you want to comment on that. I know I'm aware of one situation that you dealt with today, and you've probably dealt with even more today, but if you want to.
Yeah, some of this we'll talk about in the policy 808 face covering and exemption process, but what we use right now is we use the advertising of the policy, as well as all of our case managers or all our staff that are working with students with exceptional needs that might fall under this umbrella. They're in contact with those parents already, or they will be as we move into school, or the parents are reaching out to us, and then we just work through that exemption policy with them.
Okay, so there has been that communication out there. It is out there, and I understand from where we're already doing some of it.
Yep, we did it last year, and then we'll continue to do it this year through this updated policy.
Okay, and then the other question that I have is that, listen, none of us take a vote like this, lightly, right? And we know that it's a serious effect, and we want to make sure that we're getting all the information. But in the past, right, what happens when we get to a point, hopefully soon, right? And I like to say that things come back down to normal and there's a need. Do we have to get the board back together for a vote? Or will this resolution allow you to act to be able to take that and say, hey, listen, we're at a good spot right now, things are good, cases are good, now we can eliminate the mask mandate and move back into a process. I mean, because ideally, that's where we want to get with this whole thing is, I think that everybody wants to get into that space. So, where's the authority there? Is the resolution give you the ability, because it was my understanding, I thought that you had the ability last time to just kind of turn it off and on as needed be, is to make sure that we were being, we were acting in accordance to the signs.
Yep, and that's a good question. So again, where I referenced section 1 under the now therefore be it resolved. Section 2 covers that. So again, similar to last year, and although, things change when the governor's executive powers, what would be the right word, were ended. So essentially, we're taking that same step this year. So when the board acted last year, it was the same thing. We set the stage for entering the school year, and then as we went through the year, it's more practical for me then to take on that decision making. And then if there's an issue with the board, and I know there wouldn't be a decision unless all of you are, unless I'm keeping, but that was the case last year too. But if there is an issue, there is a way for you, at the next board meeting, we'll talk about that. But essentially, yes, this provides the flexibility and our ability to be nimble if things change, because it could be, we sometimes have a month in between board meetings, and we wouldn't, and of course we can always call a meeting, but this would allow us to make decisions once we enter the school year, and then we can make decisions as we go forward as well. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be a board resolution.
Okay. Are there questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, is there anybody who would like to entertain the motion to adopt the resolution that is presented in front of us?
So moved.
There's been a motion by Ms. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Arcan. Is there any other discussion regarding the resolution? Please, is Mick still in the room, or did he already leave? Mick, this has no financial implications, so we can do a yes vote, or should we do a roll call?
As a resolution, you should do a roll call.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Chapman?
Aye.
Ellison, aye. Mullen?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye.
Arcan?
Aye.
Beloit?
Aye.
And the motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll now move to our next operational item, which is C3, which is action on the school board policy 808, face covering, and policy 808 exemption form. Dr. Kazmierczak, is that?
Yep, I can kick it off again. So really an extension of the last conversation. The mask policy that we had in place last year technically expired because again, it was tied to those executive orders and that were in place. And so then this puts it back into place as we enter the school year. If we're requiring masks, then we need to, or face coverings, I should say, then we need to have the policies so that we can implement that approach. And this essentially is last year's policy with some refinements and again, some verbiage at the beginning that's a little bit, that's different just because we're entering a different school year. So this policy probably doesn't look all that different from to school board members because this is essentially what we operated in last year.
Just a point of, I'm sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
I apologize for the interruption. Just a point of clarification, because typically for policies or updates of policies, we have 2 consecutive meetings where the policy, and I do know that I was absent at the last meeting, so I want to make sure if it was brought forward, right? Was it brought forward at the last meeting?
No, it
What
wasn't.
is the process?
This is the first meeting at which it's been discussed in this form, and the board has, the board's practice is to do 2 readings, but it can suspend those practices in situations such as health and safety.
So
Situations.
then I would say that would probably before that, we probably need a motion to suspend the process for this said policy.
We don't need a motion to do that. You certainly can do that. We
I
don't
want to
need
be
it, but-
respectful. I don't want somebody to come back and say, or, yeah, I want us to follow the rules,
There
right?
would be no harm in doing it, but it's not a requirement. But absolutely, there'd be no harm in making a motion to suspend that.
So Nick, I'm gonna use your expertise here for a second. So then I would ask for a motion to suspend the policy process for policy 808. Would that be germane?
You could simply do it in one fell swoop. Suspend any practice or policy requiring two readings, and at the same time, to then approve policy.
Okay, so, you guys have heard the motion, the exact verbiage for the record from Nick. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
There's been a motion by Ms. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Beloit. Is there any discussion regarding the motion? Hearing or seeing none, all those in favor with the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, please.
This is a roll call vote as well.
It is?
I have on my minutes.
Okay, well, then we'll do a roll call vote.
Chapman?
Aye.
Ellison? Aye. Mullen?
Aye.
Newmaster?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye.
Arcan?
Aye.
Beloit?
Aye.
And the motion passes. Thank you all very much. We will now move in. I'm going to read a short statement before I ask for a motion to go into closed session. This portion of the meeting may be closed to consider strategy for labor negotiation, including negotiation strategy and development, or discussion and review of labor negotiation proposals conducted pursuant to Minnesota Statute 179A:01 to 179A:25. This portion of the meeting may be closed to discuss evaluation of superintendent pursuant to the Minnesota Statute 13D:05, subsection 3A. With that, I would ask for a motion to move into a closed session.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Ms. Chapman, second by Ms. Beloit. All those in favor of going into closed session, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. We are in closed session. Thank you.
Are we staying here?
I think it'd be best if we went back upstairs.
Okay, back up to 206. All right.